right. Hello and welcome, everyone. Tanya here with Sonja Lidal, here with me to talk about her specialty, what she brings to the world, which is helping people overcome stress and anxiety. So, as an stress and anxiety coach, she helps female entrepreneurs to overcome their overwhelm and find their healthy work-life balance so they can relax at home, guilt-free while still thriving at work. So she has her own journey that she has taken herself through to overcome those same challenges, and now she teaches that to others. So welcome, Sonja, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So tell us about your journey.
Well, it was oh my goodness, ages ago how it all started. I was massage therapist, working from home, doing my own thing, and it was the typical when we're trying to run our own businesses where we just like sun up to sundown. We're always trying to, the hustle, do more, achieve more, and it it was just the overwhelming overwhelm, stress, anxiety. I had all of it. It ruled my life. And I remember things like, we'd be out for dinner at a really nice restaurant, sitting on a patio, and I'd be like, oh, this is so beautiful. Oh my God, what if these 100 things happen? And all of a sudden, my mind would be racing with all the horrible things and contingency plans for the horrible things. And it's just the stress never lets you relax. It never lets you stop. And I remember thinking, sitting down the edge of my bed one night, and we all do this if we're stressed and overwhelmed and stuff. Some people it's on the couch, but for me it was at the end of the day. I'd go to the bedroom to start my go to bed routine, and I was sitting on the edge of my bed doing that blank stare, like
Mm.
I think we've all done that a time or two. And I remember thinking, like, there has got to be a better way. I realized that I didn't really like my life. And not to say like I loved my boyfriend, I love my dogs, like I loved all the things in my life. I just didn't like how I was living it, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and I just like I was like, I do not want this. No, this can't be my life. I'm not doing this anymore. Like this can't be it. This just like surviving, just like waiting to fall into my bed because it's the only time of day you really got a bit of peace. And even that was kind of a lie because any stressed out person knows we don't sleep. It takes us hours to fall asleep. We wake up in the middle of the night and it's a 50-50 shot whether you get back to sleep. So
Mm-hmm.
even then, I was averaging about 4 hours of sleep every night, and like honestly, I was a mess. Like I was just a big old overwhelmed mess. And so fast forward, honestly, I couldn't even tell you how many years later. I didn't track, things we look back on and what we should have done. I should have like literally kept a journal, but
Mm.
my boyfriend really helped me. He's a natural born coach, so I'm very blessed to have him. And finally, I decided to start listening to him, and actually do some of these things he was recommending. And now we fast forward many years and we made the move. We now live in Mexico, very relaxed lifestyle. And I don't want to sound cliche like living the dream, but it's pretty all right living down here.
Uh, so very different. Interesting. So how do you help people? So you hit this state where you realized I have no time for myself. I'm constantly stressing out about money, clients, bills, whatever. And yeah, and it can become something then that just is constantly running in the background. Um, to where it just becomes normalized. like, oh, it's normal to wake up in the morning and slam down 2 or 3 cups of coffee and just hit the road and just make yourself do the thing, and get up and do it again the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day until, of course, you do that long enough and then you might find yourself in a healing crisis. And then it's like, okay, well, now you really have to do something about it. I mean, it sounds like you didn't have to hit that level of rock bottom, but
You, I was kind of close with it, because you really think to yourself, but this is just how life is. You talk to other people. I remember Googling work-life balance,
mm,
try to find like how can you work full time and still have a balanced life. And even to the extent where some of my Google searches literally was this one woman who's like, it's impossible. It doesn't exist. And I was like, oh my God. And I remember like slamming the laptop down and I'm like, okay, I can't deal with this right now. Like that cannot be the answer. But you just, like you said, we normalize it and, oh, this is just how everybody is. And it's like, just because everyone's doing it doesn't make it normal, for starters. But I would also have the experience of every Christmas. It's that cliche of when you have time to be sick, you get sick. So every Christmas, like clockwork, my last day of work, my last appointment, it's like 8 o'clock at night. I'm waving my client, Merry Christmas, bye, and like you. And
yeah.
I'd be sick the whole Christmas break.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, to an extent, it was that again, we don't realize it in that moment where I was pushing, 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 pushing. And then when I did finally have some time, my body was like, oh, thank God, we need to heal. And it would just, and I'd be sick every time, every long weekend.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah. As a teacher, I experienced that too. It's like every time, oh, great, here's vacation. You get to have a break. And it was like, oh, yeah, perfect opportunity to get sick and finally let go. And it's safe enough to get sick now. Aren't you lucky? you know?
that is exactly it.
And you just
And
don't realize it. You're so disconnected from your body because you're just in your will. I guess it's the will overrides the needs of the body, and that's where then the imbalances come. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, I'm just thankful. I honestly, I have, what did my natural path be called? I have a good constitution, which
Mm,
I think is just like I have a sturdy body.
yeah.
And thankfully, so I did not have any sort of, I didn't end up in the hospital, nothing dramatic like that. But I do know for people who aren't as blessed as me to have such a sturdy body,
Mhm.
that's the outcome is, it starts with how many holidays in a row that you end up being sick, to the point where when your body does decide to give out, you will be in the hospital, if you're not as blessed to have as strong of a body as some of us do. And that's a scary thought to think, that's the time when you actually get that eye opener, is when you're in the hospital with who knows what's going on with you type
Yeah.
thing, right?
So what did you do? So obviously you found yourself in this space and you're like, okay, I need to change. Sounds like you started to Google stuff and try to find solutions. What did you find and what did you find that actually works?
Well, it was kind of, I think it's a little bit silly, but this is where, because it kick-started me and it really clicked for me, where I do start all my clients is like day one, we discuss the anxiety issue. I remember, so funny. I remember clearly like mopping the floor, and my boyfriend had said this sentence to me, "Can you fix it?" Countless times before, but I always just ignore him. Like, I don't have time for this. Stop. What are you saying? Like, right? And I remember furiously mopping the floor and just being all angry and upset about something. And he comes up, he's like, what is the problem? And who knows what it was, because it's never anything important. And I tell him, he's like, well, can you fix it? And I remember just being so appalled at this question. Like, how dare you even ask me such a stupid question? What do you mean, can I fix it? What does that have to do with anything?
Uh-huh.
And finally, one day I realized, like, it just clicked, where literally, can I fix it? No. So I'm expending all of this energy. Will be exaggerate. I'm ruining my entire day
Right.
over something I can't control, I can't do anything about. And I'm like, wow, I am really, really wasting my all of my energy, all of my emotions. And the worst part is we don't realize in those moments I'm upset about this thing that I can't control, I can't fix, I can't do anything about, and I'm upset. So now I'm short with my dogs, I'm snapping with my boyfriend. Like this is a ripple effect into everybody, our friends, our family, clients. I mean, I pray to God that I held my tongue and I didn't, say anything silly to them. I don't think I did, but it's that projection of how was I coming off that I didn't realize, like all of these different things. Because when we're not in a great mood, we come across differently for sure. So it's just all these unseen consequences that we don't even realize we're doing. And especially in this moment of realizing that this effect I'm having, not just my life, but on everyone around me, for this thing that essentially doesn't even matter
Yeah.
because I can't do anything about it.
That's such a great, like, I love that. I love questions that kind of, if we can remember that, to ask ourselves these questions, like in the moment, there's something that's bothering you, you're getting triggered, to have the presence of mind enough, excuse me, to ask the question, well, is this something that I can fix, right? And we talked about this, the serenity prayer, right? Lord, grant me the wisdom to, I forget how, I can't quote it exactly, but it is that time old prayer of, you know, allow me to if I can change it, then I will, and if I can't, then I let it go, and give it over to God, whatever. Um, it's yeah, so to catch yourself, I think that's the hardest thing to do, though, at times, is that when we have tools that we have available to us, and then we forget that we have them when we're in
Yeah,
the moment being upset. And I guess that's kind of where the beauty of having someone like you come in, where someone gets to just, whatever, spew all the stressors that are happening in their life, and for you to be like, okay, well, let's go through this step by step. All right, situation A, can you fix it? No? Okay, let's take that off the list. That you don't have to do anything with that. All right, next
yes.
one. Situation B, can is anything you can do about this? Oh, well, yeah, I guess maybe there is. Okay, great. Let's come up with a strategy of how we can fix that, right? So, yeah.
That is literally it. And I will say I recommend for everyone, if you are listening, post-it notes. I have, if you work on your just to always have, like, put them wherever you need them. Get creative. And I was blessed to have him to help guide me. But yeah, if you don't have someone there constantly reminding you, yeah, remind yourself, get creative. That's the other thing. Know yourself. Be honest. Are you stubborn? What are your faults? And let's work with yourself
Mm,
to make sure. Because, yeah, I know for myself, I'm very stubborn. I've been called pig-headed. My boyfriend used to laugh because when it was in the schedule, it was like written in stone, which was definitely one of my faults. Which, as a side note, when we're overwhelmed, we don't realize it, but our go-to survival mechanism is control, because the overwhelm is like chaos, drama, all this stuff that's out of our control. And so we start micromanaging and we start just trying to control everything. So,
mhm.
just a side note, we are all control addicts if you've been overwhelmed. But
Yeah.
yeah, so just know your faults and work with it. We all have them. So, that's
Yeah.
just side note for people watching. Post-it
Yes.
notes.
Yeah, Post-it notes, cool. Yeah, this, the tendency to wanna micromanage and control and all of that, it can just build up. I feel like the other thing that I think people forget is that you have the right to change your mind at any given point, right? Because I feel like for me, that was something that took me a long time to learn because I was so, like, true to I was someone who really valued my word, so if I committed to something and I said I would do something, that I would do it no matter what. It's like, well, I committed to whatever, showing up here to do this thing and that thing, and, as the time would come, I would feel like, "Oh my god, I really don't wanna do it." And I would do it and I'm like, "Oh, but I promised." To give myself the permission to be like, "Actually, you can change your mind. It's okay. You can say, 'This actually doesn't work for me.'" I don't know if you can see me, but it looks like you froze there for a minute, Sonja. I'll wait till you come back here. I lost you. Well, maybe she'll come back. I don't know if you guys can hear me. If anyone can hear me, you can post a comment. But yeah, so I was just saying that, um, to realize that you have free will and choice to change your mind at any given time, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you are a person that's not of your word. So, I feel like that's a huge piece. And it looks like we've totally lost Sonia. Hopefully she can get back on. Um, she lives in Mexico, and so it could be that the internet there is can be dicey. So anyway, if you are watching this, go ahead and type in the comments. Just let me know where you're signing in from, um, what questions you might have. If you're watching the replay, write #replay. Be sure to like and subscribe this channel as I'm growing it and inviting new speakers all the time. So I'm just going to continue to riff until Sonia gets back. So stress and anxiety. I also feel that, yes, absolutely having mindfulness over our patterns and behaviors can really de-escalate that anxiety and that stress. I have also found that oftentimes stress and anxiety can be something that's inherited, um, passed down to us from our parents and their parents, so on and so forth. Um, and sometimes those patterns are difficult to locate. There she is. She's coming back.
I'm so sorry.
Hey, you're back. That's okay. I was just explaining to people that sometimes I was just kind of going off on a riff that sometimes stress and anxiety patterns are also, inherited through our parents. We've learned how to deal with life as children by observing our parents and how they acted and what triggered them when they got like all fearful and anxiety ridden, which, if you were a sensitive child, obviously like myself, it impacted me. So sometimes it takes for me, it was family constellations work, and energy healing that could unwind or, kind of let go of those patterns. So anyway, now you're on.
No, that is all very true. And even when I deal with like teaching people and trying to get through to them the importance of self-care,
Yeah.
I would love every person everywhere to always do self-care because they just care about themselves enough to do it. But to some extent, that's not always the case. And I prefer people to get on the bandwagon as soon as possible because it's so important. And then we'll work on you choosing to do it for yourself as opposed to someone else kind of in the process. But that's the biggest thing is, to your point, our children learn from us. They are little sponges. That's how we learn cooking, cleaning, even our dialect of our voices. Like everything is learned from our parents. And I always tell, especially the moms, because females are kind of the most guilty for putting ourselves last. I feel like that is definitely an inherited
Yeah.
trait.
Yep.
Where when we do these things, and it's a misguided ideal a lot in expectations, priorities, and perceptions, where we think we're doing it for our family. We're neglecting ourselves to give our kids everything. We're doing it for the kids. But at the end of the day, what you're teaching your children is, we'll say the mom, you as a mother cease to exist as a person and cease to exist as someone who deserves self-care and time and love the same as any other human when you become a mother. Because now your kids are everything. So you're teaching your daughter that this is going to be her life. And if you're not 100% thrilled and loving your life and super glad to be in it and love every aspect of it, you're putting that on your daughter. And similarly, where you're kind of showing your son, if they choose to go down the normal, how I grew up, the normal expectations of society, which is completely everyone's choice to do whatever they want. But just being generically old school here, where you're teaching your son that, you know, when if he marries a woman, they have kids, that she doesn't need time, she doesn't need self-care, she ceases to exist as a female human being and
Mm,
becomes mom, who
mm,
is just there to slave over the family. And we don't really realize that that's what we're doing, because nobody thinks about that aspect, but that is an unfortunate side effect of our misguided priority of doing everything for the family and the kids.
yeah.
We haven't, what is that? We haven't seen the forest for the trees. Right? Yeah, and I think that's kind of a little polite, as my one coach says, punch in the stomach to get people's attention.
Punch in the stomach. Yeah. Um, yeah, definitely. Yeah, the self-care, I think, it's it's just what there's okay, let me back up and just say this. Like, I think oftentimes what people will say, well, it's all great for you to say that, oh, I just need to do more self-care and, relax a little bit, but, life's expensive. I have bills to pay. I've got to like bring home the bacon, whatever. And and so it becomes this we end up in this I just feel like it's a hamster wheel, where it's just like, "Oh, but I have no choice." And I think that's where we have to stop for a minute and not make these blanket assumptions about life in general, right? And it's like, okay, yes, we all have to pay bills. Yes, there is that true. We don't get to just kick back whenever we want. We do have to generate an income, and that does take work and energy and all of that. But I think to stop and assess, like, where's the line? Where are you actually overdoing it and actually um, in the hustle mindset, because that too is a fallacy that's taken me a long time to learn, actually, that especially as an entrepreneur, I think there's just this it's so ingrained in our society that, oh, you have to hustle to make the income, to make it, right? And actually it's like all you're doing is just chasing externals, never ending, and actually the hustle isn't isn't actually serving you. If anything, it's kind of a waste of time, because once you set up your life in that way to hustle, and that's how you see, "Oh, look, I hustled, therefore because I hustled, I made this income, so I just have to continue with the hustle." And then suddenly you find yourself in a mode of operandi that requires that level of hustle, which then becomes unsustainable and blah, 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 blah. Like, what if you redesigned your life in such a way where it's like, okay, if I was more intentional with self-care and making the space and doing these practices that you're suggesting, what if life gets to be just as abundant, if not more, where you are supporting your biological being and able to attract more into your life. It's like it's almost counterintuitive. We're so used to thinking, oh, I got to move fast and I got to do more in order to have more. It's like, well, what if you slowed down in order and do less in order to have more? So
100%. And I had to go through that mindset shift also of you have to work hard to earn money. And because it's all over TV, it's in all the movies. As a kid, like if you ever had the career day when you were younger and the fireman came in, and I remember it was elementary. I was young, like 7 or 8 or something, and you see all these people come in, and everyone, if you work really hard, maybe one day you can earn this money too, right? It's
yeah,
We're just so programmed to do that. But the fact is, you can look around anywhere in the world and see people working to the bone, literally, breaking their backs in some regard, that are not getting anywhere, that are
yeah,
not achieving anything. And you can see people working 4 to 6 hours a day achieving the world. So
mhm,
you have to work hard to achieve. Yeah, it's a bunch of baloney. But
mm,
like you said, we're so programmed.
yeah,
So, I mean, I'll do a quick thing for people with limiting beliefs. One of the best ways to just quickly, without getting into it, find reasons this belief is garbage. Like, I know, people in my life that have worked hard, that to the grind, that don't achieve, that are never getting ahead, and find these reasons why this you have to work hard to achieve is BS, and write down all the reasons that this is a lie. And then you find the new limiting belief of I don't have to work hard. You work smarter, not harder to achieve. I just need to be smart about what I do. I need to make good choices to achieve big things, and then find supporting, they call it legs. Find your supporting legs for this. Maybe you have a mentor, maybe there's people you can Google in your life, just anyone in your life that isn't working to the grind, that has achieved good things, and use them as an example of this is why my new belief is true. And this is what I'm going to choose to believe. And I don't need to hustle. So
mhm,
find the negatives of why the old thing you don't want to believe is garbage, and then find the positives of why the new thing is your new belief, and support it and run with it. So just a quick little how to change a limiting belief. Oh, I think I'm freezing again. Oh, what a terrible internet day for me. All right.
there we are.
Okay, good.
I lost you there.
Yes,
Uh,
usually my internet is so good during the day.
no worries. So yeah, are there any other anything else you want to share as far as like what you do with your clients?
Honestly, that is a tough nut. I definitely, just generically, I work on mindset. We work on any limiting beliefs that are holding you back. We work on self-worth, confidence, really why you deserve the self-care. We work on boundaries for yourself, boundaries for other people.
Mhm.
We work on organization is a big one. Going over those priorities again. Why are you doing it? Okay, well, are your actions supporting that priority, or are you actually doing the opposite inadvertently?
Yeah.
Expectations, perception. A big thing is how we choose to perceive things. How we perceive things creates our reality, which sounds a little matrix like, but truly, this is why some people see half glass full, some people see half glass empty. So, really, what we perceive and how we choose to perceive it, in what light, really reflects the world we create around us. Again, it sounds a little bit hokey, but it's just so true. So we really work on those things, like what are your current expectations? Why are you doing things? Where do you have that unnecessary stress? Like for example, do you bake 800 cookies at Christmas because your PTA mom says you have to, and you're trying to compete with her because no one actually cares in the end? Why are you stressing yourself out? Like,
Mm, yeah. Yeah. I wonder, do you get clients? I find, and I'm just thinking of a friend who has and I think this is common for a lot of people actually, that they're in a job, in a career where the boss is extremely, how should I say this? Like incendiary, like very, not a people person, who can be rude, power tripping, like those kind of. I've seen that with some of my friends. They're in a job where it's like, oh my God, my boss is just out of control. Like she keeps putting more work on my plate. She's unappreciative. She's yelling at me all the time. Like it's create like, what do you say to those people when they're stuck in a job that obviously they're in it because they got to pay the bills, they got to pay the mortgage, so they feel that they can't let go of the job, at least not in the moment. Maybe they can start looking for another position, but in the meantime of like being in that situation where you don't have a choice, I feel in some ways it's just really, really stressful. How do you help people deal with that kind of stress and anxiety? Because I see that impact a lot of people where they're just like, "Oh my God," like I'm breaking out in hives because I have to go to work, and deal with this person, you know?
Yeah, I put that on the same category of like, you have that, Uncle Bob who says all the wrong things and triggers everyone, or like my
Mhm,
brother who likes to sometimes argue just to argue. And
mhm.
yeah. So when you have people in your life for whatever reason that you are stuck with for now,
Yeah.
I always think of like reacting versus responding and stories. So it's a really weird concept, um, but just to know that everyone is doing the best they can with what they have and know. So let's
Mm,
say this boss is just the biggest terrible person in the world.
mhm,
Um, he Let's just say we don't know his backstory, we don't know everything his life, we haven't seen his movie, so we can, if we choose to, just assume for whatever reason, this is the best he can do right now. Maybe he was raised to behave like this. Maybe he hates his life and this is the happiest he can be in the moment. We don't know why he's behaving like this. So
mhm,
we don't want to make assumptions and we don't want to feed into that because it just kind of stirs the negative feelings. The more we're like projecting and thinking about him and why is he like that, we're just feeding the negativity.
mhm,
And then so it's you really have to dig in and how am I going to choose to respond? Because people can say things and it can trigger us, and we get this emotion of like, and
mhm,
but we have to like choose to take a minute. So whether you have a cup of coffee and you take a sip if someone says something to you in the moment, or you have something you can kind of play with, or you just take a breath or something, just really try hard to take that moment, to take that step back. And instead of lashing out emotionally, we
mhm,
want to think, okay, is this going to help? Because there's so many times where you're like, okay, is it going to help the situation to respond with emotion, or are we just going to create an argument? That Uncle Bob who says all the wrong things, arguing with him over politics, does that get you anywhere? No, it causes fights. Nobody wins in the end. Everyone's just upset. So it's like, okay, I'm not going to take the bait. I'm not going to fall into it. It's kind of almost that kill them with kindness sort of thing, where again, that boss comes at you saying horrible things, take the breath, and you're like, he didn't mean it like this. What's the takeaway? What's the actual, what's my project? What am I supposed to do? What's the literal job he's telling me to do in this moment type thing?
mhm,
Take away those bits of information that are relevant. And it's like you kind of just put that boundary up of all the extra gook and leave
mm,
it at the door. And
mm,
you just have that thought of like, okay, we don't know why he's behaving like this. Truthfully, I personally wouldn't care. He's doing the best he can. And it doesn't matter if it's garbage. He's doing the best he can. And we're not taking bait. We're not feeding into it. We're just going to, again, what are those essential informations? We're going to block out, tune out the rest. Whatever needs to get done. And almost kind of, it sounds weird, but like, if you have a dog or a child and they talk and somehow we become immune to their noise and we don't even hear it anymore.
mm, mhm,
That makes sense, right? So you almost kind of have to put that in that category. If the boss is coming in and they're just like, where's the project? You were out of the bar. You should have had it in by now. And they just yell at you for no reason. It's very difficult, but it's practicing regulating your emotions. We don't know why he's being the way he is. And truthfully, for my life, like if that were me for my life right now, it doesn't matter why he's being like that. It's unnecessary. If I cannot do anything about it, there's no HR recourse. There's like literally nothing I can do.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not giving him my energy. I'm not giving him my power. He doesn't deserve to make me unhappy. He can go and be in his office. He can take his anger in there. I'm going to put up my wall. I'm going to nod. All right, I hear you. Okay. And then as best of your ability, and it is something to be practiced, it's that water off a duck's back where we just take the cleansing breath in and let it go.
Mm-hmm.
It again, it's very difficult. I like to imagine white light in, shake it out, kind of visualize the stress dripping off of you, dark toxic energy out, all those feelings he's making you feel. I mean, we don't want to have bad karma on us, but if it makes you feel better in the moment, you can blow all that energy back in his office and he can keep it.
Right.
But just to also remember that when you allow people to upset you, when you allow them, you have lingering anger over something someone's done or said, you're giving them your power. You're giving them your happiness. It sounds harsh, but you're choosing to allow them to take space in your life that they don't deserve. They're not good people.
Mm-hmm.
Why should you keep thinking about them? They shouldn't be taking up space in there. They're terrible people. Get them out of your mind type thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it is building up a lot of discipline. It's building up that emotional regulation, which unfortunately our society, we haven't really been taught. Those of us, we grew up in the 80s, we don't have emotions. We never talked about them ever. And then now we're in this new age of like, let the emotions flow wild. And you're like, okay, no, that's again, now we're on the way over the top on the other side. Everyone has the right, like you feel what you feel. Obviously, it's an emotion for a reason, but you need to take that minute. Why is it upsetting me? Why do I feel like this? Is this valid? Okay, now do I want to continue feeling this way? Because it's a really old thing, but it's something like people can only upset you with your permission or something.
Mm.
Do you know that thing?
Um, I don't know that, but the one sentence that I often live with is that there is no upset outside of myself.
So I'm gonna say that that's the same thing, but you have to, again, it seems like a foreign concept because we're just not raised this way, but if you really do let people upset you. You let people get under your skin. These are things that we can work on not allowing to happen. So anytime that boss comes in, he's being a jerk to you. Even if you get upset in the moment, catch yourself. Do I want to let him ruin the rest of my day? No. Yeah, and even visualization things like maybe to some people it seems silly, but I would even visualize almost having like earmuffs on the next time he comes in and he's needlessly hollering for whatever. Just okay, yep, pretend you're a child. Oh, I'm not listening to you, mom, type thing. Like, just to start trying to put that boundary up until you get to I don't want to tell people to not listen to their boss, but if it's just pointless anger, the yelling for no reason, then there's no need to really like take it in and listen to it. Am I
Mm.
explaining it properly?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's as more energetic people would say, it's kind of like what you're choosing to allow into your bubble. And I guess if it helps other people to have your energetic bubble around you and his words are just bouncing off, you're just like,
Mhm.
no, that is negative. That's not coming into my world. And it can be, and I know personally, it can be really difficult. I'm a person back in my overwhelmed days. I can hold a grudge. Like my boyfriend used to laugh and joke about my grudge holding abilities. Like it was kind of disgusting. Like a week later, I'm mad at you. I don't even know why, but I'm mad. I might be mad at you for life. Like it's just silly nonsense. Because again, all of that anger, when you're holding resentment, it's you're holding anger, negativity in you, and all that negativity affects you physically, emotionally, mentally, right? So it's kind of like, why are you allowing someone to just pour negativity into you, right?
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, so before we hop off, how can people get a hold of you that want to work with you and yeah.
So I am on Facebook. I am on Instagram. Sonja LD on Facebook. You'll see my lovely face when I was out golfing in my profile picture. Um, I think I don't ever give out my phone number. So Facebook, LinkedIn, and I do have, if people currently are fairly organized and they have a pretty good schedule and they follow the schedule, I do have in my profile page, even there's a link, a free daily work-life balance checklist. And I feel like it's a good Kickstarter to just, we don't have time to get into self-care, but self-care is just caring about yourself. So even making a healthy choice of a salad over fries is a piece of self-care. So even
Right.
getting that little bit of self-care every day, it's just a checklist that can help you start bringing more positivity and a little bit more balance into your life if you're just not ready, or for whatever reason that's as far as you want to go for now. A little intro into my world. But yeah, it's so I have that lead magnet of, get on my email list. And on my email list, I very rarely ever, I don't sell through my email list, hardly ever. I will send the odd promo of like, this is what's happening. I have a masterclass coming up or whatever, but it is just weekly tips. Weekly, if you're going through this, I'm going to send you, here's what I've gone through, here's how it helped me, here's tips and tools. So personally, I don't know why you wouldn't want to be on my email list. Just saying. But that is another way. Once you have that, you can email me through that also.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Sorry, I got a fly buzzing around here. Um, Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sonja, for just sharing your insights and some of the tools that you use to deal with stress and overwhelm. I mean, it's so important to get a handle on that if you are dealing with a lot of stress and overwhelm, because it does, they say stress is the number one killer, right? It causes so many things in our body and disease that we want to be able to learn how to deal with it in healthy ways, right? Holistic
Healthy ways.
ways, not numbing out with drugs or alcohol or any of that, but yeah, through holistic, healthy ways. So thank you so much, Sonja, for your time, and thank you to everyone who is watching the replay or was with us live. Be sure, if you have any questions, to put them in the comments. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was wonderful. And yeah, the more I can spread the word that life does not have to be like that, the better I think we will all be in the end. So thank you
Yes,
so much.
you're welcome. Thank you. All right. Bye, everyone.